What's up, guys? ZAZpTq out here for Operation Sports, and I just want to take one last look at the NHL beta. It's been over for about a week now, but I wanted to talk through a couple more things because we're about to get into a really crazy release schedule, but I still had a couple more thoughts I wanted to get out there about the NHL beta. And so we're going to be moving on to the footage here in a second. I might come off a little negative, and I don't want it to be that way. We actually have a lot of really great coverage already on the site as it relates to the beta in terms of impressions from both Jason Young and Glenn Wigmore, who are two writers for our site. So I'm trying not to cover a lot of what they did, which means a lot of the positives they already hit on. I don't want to really retread too much, so I'll be talking about a couple other things, and the way it is that some of those things are just a little bit more negative. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm overly negative about the beta. I'm actually pretty happy about how it went, but I just wanted to put that out there before we cut to the footage, which I will now be diving into. So the first thing I want to talk about here has to do with scoring chances around the net. The puck is way looser now, which is overall positive, and with that comes a lot more grinding, a lot more chaos, a lot more just jamming at pucks around the net. But one thing I did notice is that there's not a ton of just in tight goals. There's not a lot of goals where you get the puck in and you really just try to jam it home. There are still those moments where you get a rebound goal here and there, which is great, but that's always been in the game no matter how the game is played. But now, especially with the feel and the touch and the need for all the classes to have importance, it'd be great to see those grinders get more goals in deep where they quickly flip it over the goalie, or they just jam it into the net before the goalie can cover up, or, just have a reason to be around the net a lot, because a lot of the time what you're doing now is you're just trying to get the puck to the net because there's not always time for pretty plays. Defense is way better overall. And so you have to really make these scoring chances count. And a way to add more goals and add more interest and add more reason to be around the net is if you could score a little bit easier around the net, which is just one thing I'd like to see more of moving forward. So the next thing I want to talk about is sort of a legacy issue. It's kind of always been a problem in NHL, but it's the idea of why certain bouncy pucks or very simple passes don't lead to your player picking the puck up right away versus like getting your hand right on rocket passes or shots from the point. It's kind of confusing and always has been, but it's kind of more pronounced now because every movement and every little play and every little pass matters. So when your guy spins around the puck and doesn't pick it up, or when he just doesn't bring in a basic pass, it hurts. Now, sometimes like that pass, it shouldn't get picked up, but a lot of the time it's just these little basic passes that you want your guy to pick it up, because being able to move the puck effectively is so important now. And so, yeah, difficult passes shouldn't always get picked up, but when you still see your player intercepting shots from the point like it's no big deal, and then you just don't pick up a simple pass, it can be a little confusing. The feedback loop is a little thrown off by that when it happens. So the next thing I want to talk about has to do with traffic in front of the net and puck cycling. But to make that point, I have to talk about finite movement as well. So I want you guys to keep an eye on the green icon here. It sort of just highlights me once in a while struggling a little bit to just keep my space and also sort of stay square. Finite movement is definitely better, but still because of incidental contact or just your player's still not squaring enough to the net or the puck. Maybe I turned auto backskate off. Maybe that has something to do with it on some level. Sometimes you still drift a little too much though. Like being on the blue line and stuff like that, it's still better than it was, but it's still a little bit of a struggle at times to just keep yourself square, keep your space, and sort of just not move too much when you're trying to keep good angles and keep good spacing in the offensive zone. And I talk about that because the other part of this is that there are a ton of block shots now, which again is a good thing overall. There's a lot of block shots in real hockey, especially when you get to the playoffs. It always becomes a big total, and when you want to know which team is blocking more shots. So the best way to do that and beat the traffic in front of the net is move the puck and be able to move it effectively. But if sometimes your spacing still gets wonky, especially because it seems like it's a little easier to poke check, maybe the auto poke check's a little too powerful at times now. So if you want to keep that spacing and you want to get shots through, Jayson a little bit in his article talked about how there should just be more injuries and stuff when players go down to block shots. That's certainly an option as well. But my general point would be, it's cool that you have to gain the zone and cycle the puck now, but if you can't always keep your spacing, or you can't always make a simple pass because, like I said earlier, maybe a simple pass somehow for some reason doesn't stay on your stick, it can kind of cause those chances in the zone to not be as prolific as they maybe could be. Just a quick one here, but I just love that the slot is not a given anymore. On defense especially, you can always sort of get your stick in there now. If you keep your spacing right and you just poke at the right time and just close down that area, it's great. It means that you can't just gain the zone and go right for it. It really does show that patience matters more. You can't just go down and try to shoot, and the same thing, you can't just try to get all those cross-ice passes because they're going to get picked off a lot now, and that's a good thing. Another quick one I want to point out has to do with passing. You do have to do some more unique passing now. You have to do some more saucer passing. You have to bank it off the boards a little bit more here and there. You sometimes just play it into space. So you don't always go stick to stick. Now, maybe controls-wise, it isn't always as easy as it could be to pull off some of those passes into space and everything else. But the fact that you have to do them a little more now to create chances or just clear the zone sometimes without icing the puck, that's really nice. And again, it's another aspect of hockey that you hope can grow and expand in the game. I also, of course, want to talk about the classes before leaving. I think you could spend a whole video talking about them and the positives and negatives of them. I think more or less I want to say that I think they were solid overall. I still think certain classes don't have enough to them. Grinder and enforcer, specifically on offense. I don't know if the checking of the grinder helps enough, and I just don't know if the enforcer should exist or not, because I just don't think fighting is a big enough deal, even with the stamina boost. I don't know how you can really make the enforcer better. The grinder, you could make the speed higher. I know all the classes more or less have the same physical attributes, but it's something to maybe consider, because if shooting, passing in hands, checking, speed, agility, all-around play, and then being able to possess the puck are your main attributes in terms of what each class can provide or not provide, I'm just not sure if the grinder has enough advantage over the power forward or maybe a two-way forward at this point. And on defense, actually, I think they're perfect. I think you have one that's an all-around guy, you have one that's the checking guy, and one that's the skill guy, and then I think there also is an enforcer on defense, which, again, I don't know if that needs to exist or not, but the point is you don't really lose anything by having that there, because it seems like pretty much everyone goes with two-way defensive defenseman or offensive defenseman. And the last thing on classes is that the forecheck is as important as ever. Turnovers will happen, and they're important. However, the manual poke check is really strong right now, so I feel like even if you go with a sniper or playmaker, you don't really lose too much if you're pretty good at the manual poke check, even on the forecheck. And I say that because, yeah, you can't really check, really, but you can still get your stick in all the time. And really, you can just do so much without checking that, again, maybe it makes the two-way forward or the grinder not as powerful as they could be, at least in that respect, because, again, the manual poke check I really do feel is very, very good no matter what class you use. So that'll do it for me. That's the thoughts I have on the NHL beta at this point. We are getting very close to the NHL 16 release date. Let me know if you have any other feedback or any other thoughts on the beta, if you disagree or agree with some of what I said. And just keep sticking around and check out more Operation Sports content, and especially more NHL 16 content, which I'm sure will be on the horizon.
How will they defend this? Score!